So today I am going to be talking about my faith journey, part 2, which is going to be discussing my teenage years and the evolution of my faith through that part of my life. And just as a disclaimer, if you didn't watch part 1, I'm going to be talking about my experiences growing up in the church and with religious deconstruction and developing my own belief system through my spirituality. So if that doesn't seem like a topic that interests you, you're definitely more than welcome to skip this series. I totally understand. So where we left off, in my childhood, I was very focused on my faith, and I very much felt a devotion, and I had a daily, relationship with my belief system and my, habits and rituals and all of that. And that continued much the same into my teen years. At some point around age 13 to 15, I'm not sure exactly when I started questioning these beliefs, but I really kind of was up against a wall with believing in hell. And so as a child, I had pretty severe night terrors fairly regularly about hell, and I would just have this dream that, I died in some horrible, dramatic way, and, I had, done things, or, as we all, have, there's, a laundry list of things that are considered sins. And, as a child, I really struggled with black and white thinking. So, I constantly felt like I must have done something wrong, or, I had some shame, that I was harboring as a child, for wrongdoing. And so I would have these recurrent nightmares. And at some point in my teenage journey, the more that I began to connect with God and really feel that loving energy and presence all around me, I began to question this belief in hell, because all I ever felt from God personally was unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, this sense that I was a good person, that I had a lot of love in my heart for others, and that I was doing the right things, if that makes sense. And it never felt to me that God had this, wrathful, punishing attitude. It just didn't make any sense to me. And so at some point in my teenage years, I just decided I don't believe that anymore. And I think that was a pivotal moment where my personal beliefs really started to diverge from the church's teachings and everything that I had been taught growing up about spirituality. And that's when I really began to start challenging things. And I would bring these questions, to Sunday school, to people in my church family, people in my actual family, who are religious. And it always just seemed to me that these questions made them uncomfortable, and that the questions themselves were unwelcome. And basically the answer that I felt like I kept getting over and over again was that the Bible says this and we don't question it. And so as a very inquisitive and curious child, this just wasn't something that I could get over. It was like, well, I'm having these questioning thoughts, so, regardless of whether you think I should be questioning it, I'm asking and I want an answer. So once I realized that I wasn't going to get answers that way, I began to lean into my more spiritual ideas and concepts that I had been exposed to over time. And I'd always been drawn to spirituality and, crystals, which I'm sure that doesn't surprise anyone who knows me at this point in my life, because I use crystals every single day in my work and at home. I was always really intrigued by astrology and mediumship and pagan traditions and beliefs and, holidays that made sense with the seasons and, living in alignment with, the earth and the way that our world operates. and I was also really drawn to a lot of Eastern esoteric spiritual beliefs. So I started to lean into those things, looking for answers as well. And at some point I realized that I could hold space for both. I could hold space for my religious upbringing and everything that I had been taught and everything that I believed in. And I didn't have to believe in everything to believe in the bulk of it. And so I started leaving the things that didn't resonate with me and holding on to the things that did. And then, like, in this other hand, I was able to hold my spiritual beliefs and all these things that I was interested in and feeling pulled into for whatever reason. It was like, okay, I believe these things and I also believe these things, and they can both coexist peacefully in my mind and heart and body, and I don't have to pick one or the other. So that was another conclusion that I came to at that point in my life, and that allowed me to explore different belief systems and decide for myself, do I believe in this particular topic? So I would just kind of learn everything that I could learn, and then I took from it whatever made sense to me and felt right to me in my heart, and I just moved forward and continued to try to find knowledge wherever I could. And so this is really the point in my life when I started to develop my own personal belief system based on everything that I was being exposed to. And I felt this, great calling to explore more. I didn't have that many opportunities as a teenager. Later in my teen years, I started to have, some opportunities to interact with some more spiritual people and to hear what they had to say and to learn about their life experiences and to begin to develop my own spiritual beliefs more, but it wasn't really readily available to me at that point in my life. I think it started out slowly, so that the transition would feel safe to me, and so that I wouldn't, shock my system with, thinking like all of a sudden everything is, wrong, or I don't know, what to believe at all. So I didn't really have that, spiritual crash out moment, which I am really grateful for. I'm a person who deeply struggles with transitions, so I think that was kind of a way that my spirit team made sure that I had a gentle transition, from my foundational beliefs into what I would eventually take up as my beliefs in my adult life. And, still sitting here today, there are many, many parts of Christianity that I still agree with and hold true, in my heart and soul, and, in the way that I connect with God. But it's just a much more expanded view at this point. And, I've realized that I can believe a whole lot of different things, at once, as long as they're not at odds with each other. And it took a long time for me to no longer be at odds with that part of myself that so strongly believed in everything that I was taught as a child. It was like I had to reconcile with that part of my inner child and say, I see you, I love you, I'm so proud of you, for everything that you are and everything that you believe. And, as I began to deconstruct my religious beliefs and start to step a little further from the church and their teachings, I had to remember not to abandon that part of my inner child who was so all in for all of it, from such a young age. So I think that's important too, that we love on ourselves through our journey, and we understand that things change over time, but our relationship with ourselves and our connection to God, neither one of those things should be severed, or I don't feel like they can be. I mean, certainly you're welcome to have whatever beliefs you might not even believe in God, and that's totally okay. But I just feel like inherently we all have a connection to where we came from, and it's my belief that that we were created. So if you don't have that belief, that's totally okay. And I'm not trying to stomp on anyone's beliefs, as I've been very clear about this entire time. But from my perspective, I just feel that we're connected to the earth, we're connected to ourselves, we're really connected to all that is in existence. So I guess my, you know, greatest belief is in connection and love. And I feel like that's where we all come from, and there's no escaping it. You know, even if you're, you know, a hermit living on a mountain all by yourself, I still feel that we're all intrinsically connected. And at some point, you know, that became my, you know, foundational belief. But yeah, that's kind of the story about my teen years. And I will definitely expand more on my spiritual and esoteric beliefs and my explorations in the next video, which is going to be talking about my early 20s. So tune in for that very soon. And as always, feel free to you know, ask any questions that you have in the comments. Leave a comment if this resonated with you, and follow for more.